Hello everybody, I am Dr. Sneha Patel from MB Patel English Medium Secondary and Higher Secondary School. Students, today we'll be dealing with subject Psychology of Standard 12th. We shall begin with a new chapter today. The chapter number is Chapter 2 and the name of the chapter is Learning Skills. Let us go through the chapter. What is the subject matter of psychology? Yes, the subject matter of psychology is behavior. And what is behavior? It is a reaction or a response that an individual gives to the stimulus or stimuli which is present in the external environment. Any stimulus or stimuli which are present in the external environment, what do? They excite our five senses. As you can see in the pictures, the very first one is about the sensation, the gustatory sensation. The second is the sensation of the skin, the cutaneous sensation. Third depicts the olfactory sensation. The fourth is about the auditory sensation. And the last picture shows the visual sensation. So, as per the presence of the stimulus in our outer environment, we will react, we will respond, and thus behavior is displayed. And psychology studies behavior. In this chapter, we are going to study about learning something, and that includes our behavioral change. There are two types of behavior. The very first one is the natural or innate behavior. It is also called instinctive behavior. And the second one is learned behavior. Let us know the difference between the two. The natural behavior. What is natural behavior? Natural behavior is something which we all possess. It is a normal response that we give to our stimulus. We react naturally to our situations. There is no need of formal education to behave. We already know how to behave naturally. It generally involves basic life functions like crying, smiling, to satisfy basic needs and for security. Humans give out natural responses to the environment. Like you can see in the picture, the person is giving a natural response that when a person feels hungry, what he will do? He will grab something and eat. The next thing about the security, as you can see in the last picture, the person is dodging a ball. So if we get frightened about something, we will try to save ourselves. And this is not learned. This is something very, very natural in us. So what is natural behavior? It is devoid of any formal education, and it involves the basic life functions. It is also called instinctive behavior, which we all are born with. Natural behavior we have within us since our birth, and we react to the situation accordingly as per requirement. Now, what is learned behavior? Learned behavior, it takes place by observing others. It is taught by the stimulus or stimuli present in the environment. There is a change in behavior due to learning. There is a change in behavior, and that is why it is called learned behavior. The behavior changes due to practice or experience. It doesn't change naturally. Practice, experience, training is required for bringing about change in behavior. As you can see in the very first picture, people are dancing there. Now they have been trained for that, and that is why they can perform like this. In the second picture, a person is doing surfing on the waves. Now, without any formal training, this person could have died. He must have practiced a lot, and that's why he's able to balance on the uneven surface of the water. In the last picture, you can see people are skating. Walking is very natural, but skating, it requires a lot of practice and training. So, what is learned behavior? Remember, students, learned behavior means a behavior which is changed for a longer period of time, and that is done through practice, training, or experience. Let us look at the definition of learning, which is given by the psychologist C.T. Morgan. According to C.T. Morgan, learning is any relatively permanent change in human or animal behavior as a result of experience or practice. So, what do you have to understand, students? There are three things which are given here that you have to take care of and you have to understand. That learning can only take place if the behavior changes, and that behavior should change for a longer period of time. And third, that behavior should be the result of experience or practice. It has nothing to do with our innate inborn abilities or skills. Learned behavior that's why related with these three aspects which we will have to focus and understand. The very first one is learning can only take place through experience or practice. It is not an instinctive or inborn ability. Secondly, there has to be a change in behavior. Then only it can be said that learning has taken place. And if there is a change in behavior, then it should be for a longer period of time. It has to be relatively permanent change that stays with us throughout our life. Only then it can be said learning. Students, let us study these three aspects in detail. The first thing is experience and practice. Any change in behavior that occurs through training, practice, or experience is called learning. Behavioral changes due to tiredness, disease, injury of any sort, emotional or physical disturbance for some moments can't be considered as learning. For learning to take place, experience or practice, they are very much necessary. As you can see in the picture, in the very first one, the girl is giving a speech. Now, talking comes naturally to us, but to give a proper speech, a lot of practice is required. And with experience, a person gets polished in giving speech. In the second picture, you can see that a person is writing and also typing on the keyboard. These two things requires a lot of practice. Remember, children, when you were in kindergarten, you were not asked to write the alphabets directly. First, your teacher made you do the sleeping line, the slanting line, and standing line, and she also asked you to do various curves and circles. And after that, you learned to write the alphabets. So, it requires a lot of practice, and with experience, you will catch up with the speed in writing or typing. In the third picture, you can see that a person is doing high jump. Now jumping is natural, but this high jump requires lot of practice, and that's why this is called learning. These activities are done due to lot of practice or experience. Change in behavior. Learning takes place when there is a change noticed in the behavior pattern of the individual. It results from training, practice, or experience. Change in behavior due to maturity and growth is not learning because it is very natural. You can see the pictures given here. The very first picture shows that a boy is getting trained to swim. He doesn't know to swim. But after practice and experience, his behavior is going to change for a longer period of time or permanently. Till he lives, he will never forget swimming. See, in the first picture, he is getting trained. In the second one, he is continuously practicing. And in the third one, you can see his behavior changed. He actually learned swimming. From the definition that we have already learned, that is given by C.T. Morgan, the first aspect was experience and practice. The second was learning can take place only if the behavior changes. And this is the third one that we have to remember, that behavior changes. But till what time period? Well, this behavior changes for a longer period of time. You can say that it is a relatively permanent change. Behavioral changes produced by learning are relatively permanent. Temporary change in behavior due to fatigue, tiredness, drug, alcohol, or disease is not learning. Instant temporary behavioral change is not considered as learning at all, because this learning has to change the behavior, and that behavior changes for a lifetime. As again you can see the example given here, that a child who cannot ride the bicycle initially, after practicing, after experience, he is able to take part in the competition. So, this is learning. It changes our behavior permanently. Students, here you can see some examples of natural and learned behavior. Take some time, look at the pictures and tell me which you can differentiate between the learned and the natural behavior. The first one is cooking. Second, yawning. Third, teaching. Walking, driving, reading, bicycling, running, dodging, and grazing. The very first one is learned behavior. Second here, yawning is natural. Teaching is again learned. Walking is natural. Driving, definitely learned. Reading, learned. This bear is in the circus. He is riding a cycle. That can be done only after a lot of training and practice. So this is a learned behavior. This man, he suddenly notices a cow or a bull behind him. And what does he do? It's a natural reaction. All of us will do this, that we will try to run away from the situation. It's very, very natural. And again here, the cow is grazing. That's also related to our basic need. And that's why it is a natural behavior. I hope you all must have guessed this right. If you have done it right, then definitely you have understood the difference between the natural and the learned behavior. And what we are going to study in this chapter, it's all about the learned behavior. Learning is a relatively permanent change in behavior that takes place either due to experience or practice. But how does this learning take place? Here in your chapter, we are going to deal with these 5 methods of learning, which are learning by emulation, learning by trial and error, learning by conditioning, learning by operant conditioning, and learning by insight. These we shall be dealing with in our next classes. Learning is a lifelong process. It starts with birth and ends with death. In between these two, birth and death, there are many things to be learned through experience and practice. Please learn. Observe your surroundings and learn. Please read the textbook as well and watch this video again for the better understanding of this particular topic. Study well and thank you so much.